You can kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Are you kidding? Why the hell should I wait for you?
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
If you're having nightmares, then welcome to the club. My name's Subaru Natsuki, and I am the Knight of Amelia.
Right now, all I can give you is just death.
It wasn't for you in particular.
You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze.
Good evening, everyone who may listen to this afterward, who will probably be listening to this now, live, talking with me in chat. It's been a minute, a little bit. So we're going to start tonight off a little bit more on the serious note, because there are a couple of things I do want to address going into the show. This is kind of the first solo live stream that I've done in I don't know, a little while. I took all of last week off of streaming because work just wasn't going to allow it. And there were weekend commitments that I had. I was helping my neighbors move. And that was going to prevent me from watching a lot of the shows that I would be covering, as well as some other stuff that I was doing. Because right after I was done helping my neighbors, I went to help my cousin who is still moving into his house. And I'll be going back and doing that tomorrow. Either way. That is why I didn't end up going over and doing any streaming. Wednesday, just couldn't do it. Didn't have the energy. Work was kicking my ass at that point. Saturday, like I said, commitments. Wasn't going to be able to catch up on every bit of anime that I needed to. And even now, I'm still not all the way caught up. I hit almost everything for the 2 weeks, except, if I'm not mistaken, New Saga and Nukitashi. Those are the only relevant ones that I did not get to. But hey, that's neither here nor there. The second thing that I did want to address was The Last Fictionology, because I felt like I personally really dropped the ball on that one. And given we were talking about Evangelion, it probably could have been a whole lot better of a show than what it was. There were a lot of things afterwards that I thought, oh, you know what? I really wish I would have talked about that, or I wish I would have been paying attention to that. And I'm just going to chalk it up to either my laziness or carelessness, because there were certain things about that whole show that I feel like just could have been done better. In particular, getting loaded during the stream just isn't something I'm going to be doing anymore, because I feel like I don't have a good performance when I'm live and I am inebriating myself with alcohol. So to any of you, if you felt like it wasn't the best show that we have done, I'm sorry. We're hopefully going to be doing things in a more organized and much more professional way going forward. I've talked to everyone who was involved. I got feedback about that show. And they kind of confirmed a lot of the things that I was already talking about, more so the organization, a lot of people talking over each other, the general chaos of it. Because Fictionology is supposed to be a pretty focused stream, pretty dedicated to things. So I felt like I could have done better. Either way, that's all the seriousness that I have stored up for tonight. The rest of it, well, I mean, for more somber topics, the rest of it is going to be going directly into talking about anime. So, nope, this is the wrong page. I want to bring this up. Hello there to you, Marcel. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. How you doing? Oh, man. So, there's going to be a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm kind of glad to be back. But first, there is one thing. There are a couple of things, actually, that I do somewhat want to start with. Because, like I try to do, I also try to incorporate some manga into this. So we're going to talk a little bit about, this is one I covered somewhat recently, but Volume 2 is now available in English. And again, I really like the art style for this one. I like the storytelling for it. The plot is great. I guess that is kind of unfortunate if you're going to have to tolerate me. But bro is full on 3 for 3 so far, and he's going up against a chick who I'm pretty sure also has copy to some extent, which is interesting. Hello, JM the Elite fan. Thank you for stopping by, even if it is temporary. Either way, you want an isekai that, basically a titty isekai that's got like a somewhat interesting story and has a character that generally relies on strategy to win his fights, rather than just, your stereotypical I'm overpowered and have just sheer brute strength to deal with everything. This is a good pick. Plus, you're rewarded with some pretty spicy content. This is another one that I've been reading, and I don't think I've mentioned it for quite a while, but it is one that just had another volume come out that I have now read in the time that I have been away from talking about anime and manga. So I figured I'd go over this one again, because we just got to a really, really, like the big moment of a romance anime, or of a romance story in this one. And then it ends on a cliffhanger in the 9th volume. Either way, I think this is a good 7 out of 10 manga. Effectively, the premise is this chick who is on the front here loves to hang around one of her classmates' apartments, because it's basically just like where she's decided to set up shop and like hang out, ditch school, and just do whatever she wants away from her parents and everything. And the dude kind of acts like a pushover, but over time, as these things go, they do develop feelings for each other. They do end up having some sort of, connection there. And it takes a little while to, get through it, because stereotypical, there's a lot of beating around the bush that has to happen in Japanese romance. But we have actually gotten to a confession right at the end of volume 9. So I'm looking forward to how this one goes. Art style, I would say that it's not anything particularly amazing, but I mean, at least all the girls have big tits and all that. But I don't really think that is entirely relevant to trying to sell the series. But go for it. It's a nice little rom-com that you can pick up like once the series is done, or if this ever gets an adaptation, I think it would be a decent one for a season. That said, though, I do have a new one that I have been reading. And it's this one. So, Interviews with Monster Girls. I decided to pick this one up because I saw some panels and I saw some clips, because apparently I think there's an anime out for this, that convinced me that it might be worth a shot. And effectively, the premise is that you have a biology teacher, like a high school biology teacher, who had wanted to do his thesis on demi-humans, but could never end up actually meeting any that he could do any sort of meaningful research on. Sorry. So he just ended up going along with someone else's, improving on their research and all that, and graduating, moving on to high school. And then he ends up teaching at a school where there isn't just one, but 4 demi-humans. 3 of them are students. 1 is a fellow teacher. Is there a snake girl? No, there is not a snake girl. What you have here is basically the girl here on the front is a vampire. Then the other 2 are a Dullahan and a snow woman. And then the teacher, who is a math teacher, she's a succubus. So you're not a fan of the snake girl. You're not a fan of... Okay. No, this one focuses on more like traditional or more classic monsters. So they all look very, very human, except for the one girl who carries her head around like a handbag all the time. But I've enjoyed it. I like the art style for this one. It is a pretty tame series. And if I had to rate it, this is another 7 out of 10 sort of series. I have read 2 volumes up to this point, and as of right now, you can get just about the whole series half off, except for the first volume, which is only $1. So you can get 11 volumes of manga for like $55 USD. That's a pretty good deal, considering that would generally run you closer to $150. No, it'd be more like $120, $130. Either way, a good deal. I got the whole. I basically just bought the. I bought the whole thing just in one go without even like giving it a test run or anything. And the snake girls for me are what cat loving elves are for you. So just not your thing. You know what? I respect it. I respect it. This one isn't lewd. It's pretty straightforward. But it does look like the romance element of it focuses on the biology teacher and the math teacher Succubus. And like the whole thing is like she's constantly trying to rein in her like seductive powers and trying to find someone who just isn't like absolutely influenced by them all of the time. And he happens to be like one of the only people who has the willpower to like resist it and treat her like a normal person. So every time he has like an interaction with her, he acts totally normal and then has to go find a secluded place to just calm down. Much more wholesome than Monster Musume. But that said, that's not really the main attraction of the night. This is. We're here to talk specifically about anime and the 2 weeks that I have missed. So, like I said, the 2 that I have not watched, at least the 2 that aren't relevant to watch for the night, because there are others that I didn't watch, but I'll explain why. Yukitashi, I'm 2 episodes behind. I will have to catch up on that. New Saga, I am 2 episodes behind. I'll have to catch up on that. Those are the only ones that I didn't get to. Everything else, I watched as many episodes as I could find available. So there are a lot of these that have 2 weeks worth of anime that I'm going to have to talk about tonight. And I'll try to get to that as much as possible. Because who knows how late this is going to run. And I might seem a little bit fast with this. I may ignore some comments. I'm sorry. But I'm trying not to like spend way too long on anything. So, that said, let's get on into it. We're starting with Dandadan tonight, the very, very first one on the list, as always. And so, I'm going to divide these up into week 1 and week 2. Week 1 is the week that I didn't stream, just so everyone is clear. And week 2 is this week. So, week 1 for Dandadan. Really, really good episode. The Beethoven one was really everything that I'd hoped for out of it. We got a really good fight scene out of that like little mini training arc where Ira and Okarun go and fight all of these, ghostly musicians and everything. It looked great, very creative and wild. When it comes to Dandadan, I kind of tend to be a little bit more lenient on what makes sense because some of them things that like Turbo Granny was saying and everything don't exactly track. I don't think there are great explanations of what's going on there. But they work for the show. Also, Jeremy Turner, how you doing? Nice to see you. I think it's been a little while since I've seen your name around here, man. Hope you're doing well. At least it kind of feels like that. Maybe I got that wrong, but hope you're having a good one. Back to Dandadan, though. But week 1 ends with the lead up to Okaroon versus Evil Eye. And I really liked the way that they did that whole episode. I thought it was really good. Okaroon's doing all of this because kids are back in school, so there's that. Yeah, I get it. I understand. Not that I have kids myself, but I understand the struggle. A lot of my cousins who are a similar age to me have kids who are like just starting school kind of age or have been in school for like a few years. Either way, I really liked this episode of this week 1's episode of Dandadan. I think it was probably one of my favorites of this entire season, particularly because of the Beethoven stuff. Week 2. So week 2 picks right back up, and it was kind of nice to just like get right into like the cold opening for Dandadan and just go right into the Evil Eye versus Okaroon thing. And now this is a much shorter fight because in the manga it is kind of trying to prove a point that Okaroon does generally level up, and that really this is just to sort of provide an excuse or to provide backup to deal with Evil Eye. And in that way, Okaroon manages to strike a deal to convince Evil Eye that the only person he's allowed to fight is him, and that it can only be done on Tuesdays. And, well, for what it's worth, Evil Eye actually does really live up to his end of the deal. He is completely, well, I shouldn't say completely well behaved, but he doesn't go around killing everyone or, trying to pick fights all the time. He lives up to his end of the deal, even if he does cause problems when he transforms in the middle of school. That part was funny, just watching the whole Evil Eye interactions that were happening there with him trying to get through the school day. And the best part about Dandadan in that scene is nobody can see the Evil Eye if they don't have super like spiritual powers. So everyone sees Evil Eye as just normal Gigi being incredibly weird. He looks completely normal to everyone. And that is one of my favorite things, especially like with Okaroon. You'll see him running in some scenes. You got to remember, he looks like just a normal dude when he's doing that. I mean, having read the manga, I disagree, but I can understand that perspective, just given the danger that it presents. But given how they use Evil Eye in the future for this whole story, I think it really does pay off in the end. So I like having him around because even Evil Eye as a character is still someone I really like. Either way, there's all of that, but really the big crazy part of this episode of Dandadan was the Minecraft reference with Ludris, who brings a bunch of magic blocks around so that everyone can, rebuild the house. And that is going to be a relevant thing. The nanoskin is not just a one and done sort of happening in this show. That will be entirely relevant in the future here. Especially as we go into the Kaiju arc, because that is one of the big things. The GOAT himself, Kinta Sakuta, has arrived. And in the English dub, he is the voice of Eren Yeager and Inosuke, Bryce Papenbrook. So this is going to be great. And the English dub for Dandadan is one that I generally do think is really, really good. But that said, I have really enjoyed this show this season. It's one of the ones that I looked forward to, and for good reason. I have not been disappointed with how it has performed so far. There are a couple of hiccups that I will point out, like, completely like realistic looking fruit bowl or food bowls. I think it was the hot pot in that one episode. Yeah, that's not entirely wrong, but I mean, now that it's nanoskin, it's kind of an irrelevant point. Because, like I said, that nano skin can be constantly used over and over again to repair the house. So, like, it totally fixes the budget problem of having to fix the house every time there's like an alien or ghost attack. Plus, it's also an effective tool for later in the series. Like I said, we're going into the kaiju arc here. It's going to be very interesting to see how they animate that whole thing. And I'm guessing that we're going to get a fucking cliffhanger right then and there where it really matters. But oh well. Okay. Moving on down the line. My dress up darling. Okay, so what happens week 1? We are introduced to the character Akira, the prop maker that Gojo wanted to meet. Hey, Roman, how you doing? And so Gojo and Akira are in very similar positions. They're both people who like to make things. They aren't so much like into participating in the whole thing themselves. What they enjoy really is the crafting of their props and costumes and all that. And this, of course, results like Gojo and Akira meeting up results in Akira and Marin meeting. And well, there's some tension there, even if Marin doesn't really pick up on it. Mostly just the fact that Akira has some sort of problem with Marin, or just gals in general. In using the stream as a reason to procrastinate my Dark Knight video. Hey, maybe you'll find some good anime to watch in here too. I mean, there's plenty of recommendations. Either way, I enjoy having you around, man. In the manga, when this is discussed, particularly with Akira's issue with Marin, it is really she says, I'm not good with people like Kitagawa, which is incredibly deceptive as to what's going on there. And yes, I do agree. I feel like this has been a really good adaptation. And the bits with like the games and the anime that they show in here have also been really nice touches for showing like what the characters are like and like actually, making it feel like a part of the universe. But the end of this is basically Marin is getting into a group cosplay in week 1. And they're all going to do this game called Coffin. So that transitions into week 2, where we actually do get to see the Coffin gameplay that Jeremy Turner was talking about there. It looks nice. They do all like the pixelated, like indie horror game kind of stuff that you would expect. Really cool way to direct that. Juju is persuaded into joining the cosplay because her younger sister is really there. And there again is another one of those things where like Japan really does play with the age thing. Juju being 17, but looking like a middle schooler. And the younger sister, what is her name? The younger sister looking like she's a college student, but she is actually the one in middle school. So, just a little point on that. But I think the best part of these 2 episodes for me was particularly what we got at the end of week 2's episode. And that would be leading into one of my favorite scenes in the manga. And now we will see what they do to it next week. Because if they leave it exactly the same as what it is in the manga, I will genuinely be shocked. Okay? Like, I will full on be shocked to see if they leave it the same in the manga. But how this ends is effectively Gojo gets kind of stranded when the trains shut down on the night he's over at Kitagawa's place while playing the game. So they decide that he's just going to stay there. And he has a bunch of qualms with being there because he just feels really awkward. Gojo's an awkward person. He doesn't really know how to handle a lot of these situations, so he's really, really worried about staying the night at a girl's house. So they go to get him some clothes and some toiletries and stuff to help him, like just so he can stay over and, keep clean and all that. And while he's there, he spots some energy drinks that he saw during the Love Hotel cosplay that they did, the Suck IDK thing. And this is the lead up to one of my favorite scenes. Is Marion has completely misunderstood what Gojo was talking about. He was looking at the energy drinks because in his mind, it's not a problem if he's over at a girl's house if he never falls asleep. So his plan is to juice himself up on Red Bull and play video games all night. How Marion interprets that, because he is crouched down next to an entire shelf of condoms, is that he is ready to get it on with her all night. Bro literally says, I'm not planning on sleeping tonight. And she's just like, oh no, is he really going to go that far with me? It's great. I really loved the end of this episode, and I'm really looking forward to next week's episode because it's one of my favorite moments in the entire manga. This whole misunderstanding here was one of the funniest things in the manga for me. But either way, I've loved the animation for this. The directing, the voice acting, everything about season 2 has been great. Maybe a little bit tamer and more relaxed than maybe the first season. A lot of people have said that they have their complaints about it, feeling like it's not the same. But I feel like this one is a bit more focused on Gojo and his classmates in general, like him making friends within his class, as compared to just season 1 of him opening up in his shell and spending all of his time with Marion. A lot of these later arcs do deal with Gojo's broader relationships, not just Marion. So that is the one thing that I have kept in mind because I've been reading the manga pretty continuously. Oh, man, something's pricking. So I haven't had a problem with it as much as some other people have. But I can understand why some other people may not be as fond of this. Now, we're going to move on to number 3, which apparently number 3 is one of the best performing anime of the season. If something I'll be covering on next Wednesday is true, this is one of the top anime for the season just in like raw numbers. Which is weird because when you go to, I don't know, like something like my anime list and you look up Clevitas, let's go to my profile here and go to my anime list, and I can actually share this tab, my anime list, for everyone. Why are the scores so low? I need to change some of these. Either way, Clevitas, you can go here. 7.87. Now that's a decent score. But I feel like this should be like a mid-8 kind of series, like an 8.5. The storytelling is just generally really good. Either way, Clevitas is the next one on the list. That's what we're getting into. So, week 1, what happens? Alicia wins her fight against the Bug Wizard. Cool. I'm glad that they didn't drag this out and turn it into a big, like, oh, they kidnapped the child. Now we have to go save the child before something bad happens. I'm glad that they ditched that trope and they just had Alicia get a win. Good move. One of the things that it did reveal, though, is that her regalia, Stream Splitter, is ridiculously powerful because it can work on the water inside of people's bodies. That in and of itself is an insane fact. I mean, it works on bugs. It should work on people too. That is another level of crazy kind of powerful. Either way, in all of this, we do see the townsfolk taking Alicia's side, and Clevitas using her as a means for escape. Now, at first, I thought it was just going to be, oh, he uses what little power he has out of Alicia to escape the prison, and he's really, really weakened as compared to what he was. No, week 2 puts that into perspective. He's just leaving basically a dummy inside of the sealing spell. So that the enemy thinks that he is sealed and that he can, conserve his power and do whatever he likes up until he actually is ready to ambush them. So, I mean, as expected, Clevites is a pretty cunning figure. I like that part. So now this does feel a little bit rushed. Everyone is headed to the capital now. Well, by the end of this episode, everyone is in the capital. And they are all ready to fight. And Clevites is on his way to the forge. Meanwhile, Alicia is fighting Drell. An interesting little, factoid that's going to happens there. Either way, the animation for this episode wasn't quite as good as it could have been. I feel like it does drop the ball a little bit in this one, but fortunately, in terms of storytelling, it has been pretty good. This latest episode, actually, like week 2, I felt was a very, very rushed episode. One that I thought was probably not done to the best of its ability. What the fuck is happening? How do I close this shit out? There's a big X there. What the I need to do something about that. I am so sorry. Anyway, I have my critiques about this episode. But in and of itself, it would not be enough to move it down because this show has been pretty spectacular so far. I've liked the story. I just think that this particular this particular episode was a tad bit rushed in terms of what it was doing. It feels like there is a ton of stuff that just got skipped over so that we could get to the capital. However, it does make me interested to see what the rest of the story is going to be, because it seems like it's going kind of fast to already be confronting Drell. And my guess is this story probably entails going up against a lot of the other Dark Beast Lords. If not all of them. I would have to assume at this point, with the way the pacing is going, that Drell is just the first season, and they're basically going to establish a sort of, group to go look into what exactly is going on with the other Dark Beast Lords. I'm assuming Clevites is going to take it upon himself to see who decided that they were going to bear their fangs at him. This show has been pretty good. If you're looking for one that has good storytelling, and like an interesting world, powers, all of that stuff, this one is very creative in terms of using things that already exist, but turning them into something new that is fresh and invigorating for the genre. Its power system, its world in and of itself, its characters, its story in and of itself is also a good touch. You have an ancient monster disguising itself as a human, deciding it wants to learn more about humans, even if he doesn't exactly have the greatest intentions in doing all of this. But I see there's probably going to be some sort of humane development in that. I would assume, given the way that the story is written so far. That said, though, we should move on to The Silent Witch. Number 4 this week, or actually, as of this week, number 3. In and of itself, Clevites is not enough reason for me to move it down the list, but in combination with everything that has happened in The Silent Witch and how strong this one has been this season, I feel like this one does deserve that number 3 spot right now. Now, this could change. Clevites could have an amazing couple of episodes following this that totally change the perspective and, switch things around. But as of right now, this is how I feel about it. So week 1, Monica's friend, Casey. Quite a twist there. And this show has had a lot of those like small little twists and everything in it. A lot of interesting little bits of information that happen. And I think it is those small pieces that you're able to put together that really make this story feel so fleshed out. But Casey, the girl who was going to teach Monica, horse riding and all of that, turns out to be one of the attempted assassins. One of the people trying to assassinate the second prince. And in order to prevent that assassination, Monica goes and overwrites Louis' barrier. Yeah, I didn't see the twist coming either. And you say the T, I'm like, you know what? That really makes sense. When that happened, I'll be honest, I saw the whole like thing with like the name on the T. I'm like, why did she not write her name on the T? And if her name's not there, how would anyone know to throw away her T specifically? And it didn't occur to me that maybe it was, the friend who had done it. Friend. And yeah, this show is way better animated than it needs to be. And honestly, that is one of the good things about it and why I think it is such a good anime this season. Either way, we do learn that Monica has some really powerful aces up her sleeve in this. She summons something called a Spirit King. And now, I don't know, that sounds like a pretty important thing to be doing. Which is, perfectly in line with who Monica is. Makes sense. Either way, she does all this to overwrite Louis' barrier and capture Casey and diffuse this whole situation so that nobody figures out what happened. With week 2, we do see that Monica basically pleads for Casey's life, even though Casey is like, I'm not your friend, you should hate me, come on, bring it on. I'm an awful person, I never liked you. Like all of the abuses and everything, and Monica is just like, I don't care. I'm still gonna try and get your life spared. Of course, Louis is really, really upset that his barrier got overwritten in about a minute. He gets super upset that all of his hard work gets outdone by Monica. And yeah, that is exactly right, Marcel. Like at that moment, it was like it's an odd thing, but I didn't really think much of that detail until later. Like that was. And you know what? This also makes sense as to why she happens to be around when the bandits were posing as the trading company. Because she might have been involved with that. But that's another conversation for another time. There isn't really any direct confirmation of that. Either way, in this episode, we see. Sorry, I don't know. Okay, I'm good. In this episode, we see that the second prince, it was very similar as a child to Monica. He was constantly apologizing to people. He's a very kind person who's always like trying to take all the blame onto himself and his own failings, and even going out of his way to cover for people who had directly tried to harm him or humiliate him. And that's likely, it's basically pointed out that it's likely that he sees those similarities that he takes so kindly to Monica. But it isn't just him. It is just about everyone around Monica that cares for her. And I thought it was a really wholesome moment to see everyone, doing everything that they can to help her out. Because she's someone who's been isolated all her life due to, everything that happened to her as a child. And in this story, you're sort of like through her mission, watching her grow through that. And I like that. while there are some, darker moments to it where like things are just kind of sad or tragic, overall, this is a very like happy show to watch, just in its overall tone and the way it does storytelling. Some things, yeah, sure, like, oh, that's sad, that kind of hurts. But I think it does have a good mix of levity, of like harsher, darker storytelling, and just wholesome fun. So if you want a good series to just, I guess unwind to, you could say, Silent Witch is a good one. Another good one to unwind with is The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity. Now, this is a romance anime. And thank God there's no freaking love triangle in this one. Thank God. I apologize. I realize I forgot to mute my mic for that. I try to mute my mic so that you guys don't have to hear that. Anyway, so week 1, the whole group makes amends, and I really did like this this episode where you had Subaru and Kaoruko, and then Rintaro and his friends all getting together, having their whole roundtable moment, sharing snacks, apologizing, and just deciding, hey, let's be friends. And that's really the big thing about this show that I think is like very satisfying, is it's a incredibly positive, upbeat series. Like, even in more dramatic moments, all of the things aren't coming out of some place of like pain or hatred or anything. They're generally like the points that cause drama, like with Subaru, is because she cares about her friend. And she, even if her decision is wrong, she's still looking out for her friend's well-being. It's out of a sense of care that she makes the wrong decision, effectively. And, the guys getting along together, having, each other's backs and everything, that's always a great part of this. But in this, Rintaro and Kaoruko have their date. They go to an aquarium, and they enjoy their time going around doing all the aquarium stuff, looking at the fish and everything. And then they come across this lost little girl, and the little girl is far more aware of the situation than Rintaro is. Like, she's like, "Are you dating? Do you like her? Are you guys a couple?" It takes her a little while to warm up to Rintaro, but it is a good thing to see that she actually does and is friendly towards him. I'm glad that she wasn't just, like terribly scared of him the whole time and all that. And of course, the parents are like grateful to have their kid back, and they don't freak out over Rintaro being there. Again, more wholesome stuff, but it's looking more and more like Rintaro is realizing, oh, I love this girl. So I'm hoping this is one of those series that has like a really like fast confession. And another thing that I do like about this is if you watch all the way to the end of the credits, they tell you the chapters that this covers. And so far, it's covered about like 22 chapters, and it's done it really well. I'm very happy with how they've done a lot of these things, especially in week 2 here, because in this chapter, we see Rintaro has his friends over to his house for the first time. And of course, his whole family had been terribly concerned about him. Yes, I agree. I really hope they actually do this, because I feel like that would be good. You move into a second season and just continue on with the show as them dating. It works. It works for this one. But episode 2, like I said, Rintaro has his family, or has his friends over. His family is very like happy to see that like he has friends, and he's willing to have them over, and he's hanging out. And this is where we get a little bit of like the mom's perspective on all of this. And I just gotta say, like, honestly, Mom of the Season award, like this lady, Rintaro's mother, she is a great parent. Where she dyes her hair and pierces her ears and everything just so that her son feels more comfortable about doing the things that he wants to. A very supportive, very good parent. And that's one thing I feel like ends up getting missed a lot in some of these anime, because they don't usually focus on the parents. But that, motherly perspective in this episode, I thought was a really, really nice touch. Especially as everyone sort of like gets together. This is another one where Kaoruko and Subaru, you come in here and the first thing you say is gooning. What's up, Rolando? How you doing? How you doing? So actually, I should make this a little bit bigger because I don't think you guys really care about my face. You care about seeing what's going on here. Anyway, all the group getting together and being able to play games and have fun, share a meal, all that stuff. Good episode. I think this one is one that I really love. Like, I enjoy watching this one. I look forward to it every week. It's not like there's anything super like standout spectacular about it. It's just a really good, wholesome show. It's a really good romance about a good dude being recognized for being a good dude by people who are all good people. And that's it. That is the magic of this show. It'll make you happy. Of course, we do have the whole summer plans thing going on here. With the group deciding that they're going to try to, spend summer together if they can pass their tests. The red-haired guy, I always forget his name, doesn't seem like he is going to be doing very well. Either way, that brings us down to Sword of the Demon Hunter. So, I love how they did these two episodes. And I'm glad that I get to talk about them in tandem because you can't really give the whole picture any amount of justice without being able to talk about them in tandem. And this did everything so well. So what happens in week 1 is effectively Genya is forced to transform in public so that everyone sees his, demon powers and everything in front of his friend, in front of his daughter, all of that. And it makes you question as to how people are going to react to his transformation. I thought it was a really interesting thing. And you can take this into a much more metaphorical sense. You have a guy who has two different sides to him. You don't even have to talk about like the demon part or like the human part and take it very literally. You could talk about this metaphorically. Sometimes there are parts of you that you don't show to other people because you're afraid that it may make them uncomfortable and you don't know how they will react to the necessary parts of you that have to exist. In Genya's case, the demon side of him, the part that needs to exist because he needs that power to fight, how would people react to that? It wasn't like a spectacularly big episode, but it was pretty dramatic. I don't. Okay, can anyone hear me? Hello? Something just went wrong with my internet here. So I'm terribly sorry. I will resume here shortly, as soon as I can get this fixed. That said, okay, good. That said, like I was saying, this is why I keep the administrator account. Like I was saying, it's nice to see that his family and everyone refresh this. Here we go. And we're back. All right, let us share the thing because that is what everyone is looking for. It just like my internet just decided to completely shit. It's not even like a normal issue that I deal with here. Like there are other times where like there are problems that I know exist. This is just a completely new one that just hit me. Anyway, back to it. So Sword of the Demon Hunter. Where was I? I believe I was talking about the final showdown was right before I realized I had been disconnected. I don't know how long before that it actually cut out on me. Effectively, though, we do have Genia moving in to like make his final move against this demon guy, and he is going to attempt to assimilate this guy's power. I'm looking forward to Monday when we get this next episode of the show because I really want to see how this resolves. I'm hoping it is a quick resolution and, that's that and we move on. But one of the things that I have really, really loved about this show, and this is, again, oh, come on, don't freeze up on me. There we go. Why are you doing this? There we go. And this is, again, like something I love about the way the show is written. It's so fantastic. It's been so good this season. In spite of the fact that its animation is not so good, its story is just fantastic. It is genuinely incredible. Hello to the questioners. How are you? Good to see you, man. And I mean, if you're not watching Sword of the Demon Hunter, it is so worth a watch. Another one that I think is like really, really worth a watch, one that popped off these 2 weeks, Gachiakuta. The story of this one just got really, really good. And I am completely okay with, like the slow burn that it's been, the little while that it's taken to actually get into its story. But now that it's starting to actually kick off, I think it's getting into some good stuff. So in this one, we basically get Rudo leveling up, and his fight against Jabber begins. He finally gets a hang of how his powers work, and he's able to start using vital instruments. And he gets a really, really cool power in using, the talisman and everything. And the whole like redirecting attacks thing was really, really cool, and how that played into, the second week. I thought that was really good. The animation for this fight was awesome. And the storytelling overall, again, it's been slow, but as a show, I think that the slower burn on it has led to it being a much more thorough development up to the point where the story is really starting to take hold. Because now we've been introduced to someone who is an antagonist, but may be an antagonist further into the story. In the form of Jabber and the other raiders at that. But moving on from that, week 2 brings us Rudo and Zanka fighting together against an out-of-control Jabber who has, juiced himself up to go insane. Of course, the whole squad arrives as backup. We have Rio and Engine showing up right at the end of the fight, even though, Jabber survives the whole thing and is able to make off with Rudo for only a little bit. And then he runs into Engine and everyone else and is forced to retreat without any sort of prize or anything. Either way, I like a lot of the things that have happened in these 2 episodes. I think Gachiakuta is has been really good. A lot of people say it's slow or that it's not as good as some of the other shows that are out right now. But personally, I really do enjoy this one. This is one that I think is actually really, really good in a lot of regards. Many of the same regards that I will voice as some of the shows above. It's really good. It's really well written. I like the characters to it. Its power system is very creative, very interesting. But not just that, I like the animation for this one too. But enough about that. We're going to move on to Witch Watch. Okay. So Witch Watch is one that I feel some mixed feelings about. And because of that, I actually do want to put it in the very good category. And I do like Witch Watch. I think it's had a couple of really good episodes here. But I just feel like time and time again, I really do enjoy it, just not enough to justify it being up in like the must-watch category. Because again, some episodes just don't hit well. Like at all. But week one, this time around, we get the whole Nemu and Keigo episode where they have their whole relationship together. And I thought that was really interesting, you know, with the float spell and the whole the ring and everything. We also get a little bit of Nemu's family issues. We see Keigo himself actually having more of a role in this story than just being a conduit for Wolf. So that was interesting. I liked that whole episode. I thought it was really nice. And of course, you do have that sort of relationship between, you know, Keigo and Nemu that I think is a nice touch on top of it. It can't really get invested into Gachiakuta. It's all right. To each their own. I really like it. I personally think it's awesome. But yeah, the Nemu Keigo episode I thought was really good. Week 2 was interesting with the girls channel, which a little bit of information for you guys, just so you know. The spell that Nemu uses is called TS Revolution. And now, what's interesting about that name is that is the name of a Dojin that is kind of along the same lines as what happens because of that spell. Yeah, it's a whole like gender swap Dojin. It was really weird to hear her shout TS Revolution, and then dude turns into a woman. Okay. But either way, the whole group decides that they're going to use this spell in order to spice up the channel, I guess, and abuse the fact that all you have to do is be a woman on the internet, have your jigglies, and people will watch because you're a woman. I think the best part of it though was Keigo transforming into Wolf, and the female Wolf is immediately like, if you want views, all you gotta do is this, and shows her tits on stream. Gets the whole channel in trouble and everything. I think I have read that before. Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think the plot is basically some I don't know, fuckboy hooks up with this chick in a Japanese public bathroom and picks up some sort of contagion that turns him into a woman. And then he basically just starts fucking all his friends and turning them into women, and it becomes an entire pandemic. I'm pretty sure that's what that one entails. It's one of those weird dojins. Either way, so basically the big moment for Witch Watch this week after the girls' channel thing, is Miharu's new friend, Jekyll and Hyde, who gets the the violent, destructive urge that he has to take out and everything. And he meets Miharu, and they have their whole deal where Miharu will go and siphon all of that chaotic energy off of his new friend in order to help him. And of course this leads to them trying to bring him over to the share house to meet all the monsters, because he had heard about it and he was interested and all that. He ends up meeting the high school's No, okay, I haven't read that one. It's 200 pages of uncensored insanity. I mean, what? Anyway, I enjoy the antics of this, but I do believe that Jeremy Turner's sentiment here is kind of the same thing I feel. It isn't a must watch, but it always makes me smile. I wouldn't say it always makes me smile, but it is enjoyable more times than not. Way more times than not. It has a couple of miss episodes that just aren't as good, but overall, it is a solid show. I did think the whole mistaking the student council president for all of the monster descendants was funny, but it still isn't enough for me to justify it being in the very good anymore. All right, let's talk about dealing with the Mikadono sisters. It's a breeze because that's the next one on the list. So we have the lead up to the whole match in week 1, which is you teaching Kazuki and Miwa how to cook, because they decide that they're going to try and cook a meal for the other two because of the match that they're working on. And there's the whole thing about, Nico's two selves and how she struggles with the things that she really wants to do and the things that she has basically become good at because she has trained herself her whole life. Basically being the boyish one of all of them, yet still wanting to do girly things. Okay, it looks like I'm doing good. It looks like it's just on this. All right, I had a bit of a heart attack there. Sorry. But of course, I mean, as you would expect in this, they do the match. Yu gets knocked out almost right away, does basically nothing, and it is Nico who ends up taking the victory and beating her senpai, who was, going to confess to her and ask her out because he likes her and everything, and gets completely rejected. Logically speaking, it would have been good for her to go to that other school and, pursue that career. But I think it's still one of those, I think that kind of defeats the purpose of the show. The whole thing is centered around that family dynamic that is building there. And that would have defeated the entire purpose of the show for her to just walk away from that. So I like how this all resolved. I think it was a really good way to do that. Week 2, though, like I said, senpai ends up confessing to Nico and then he goes his separate way. But the big part of this is this is kind of what I'm talking about, is the whole family thing is the core of this show, and that's why I enjoy it so much. Is Yu is really just focused on having good familial bonds with the sisters and actually, having a good home life for everyone. And meanwhile, everything he is doing is basically making them swoon over him. So they decide to try and get their revenge at the amusement park thing. And Oh, I really enjoyed the amusement park this week. Last week was a sort of like emotional victory for the whole show, where like you have a really good resolution to along the family stuff and Nico's personal struggles. In this one, you get to see a lot more of the sisters being close and having a good time together and kind of competing, to try and make Yu the one who's swooning over them for once. And it doesn't work for them because in everything they do, he ends up being the girly one and all that. Poor dude. Poor dude. Either way, this one is just another like fun, like light-hearted show to watch. Again, harems will always be better than love triangles. Love triangles suck. I freaking hate them. Yeah, and that I think I've said that enough. The point is though that like this one is far better than anything I'd expected it to be. Far better. And another one that has been far, far better than I had ever expected it to be was, of course, Call of the Night. So these last two episodes have been insane. So I will be the first to say that week one, I was incorrect about the dude in school being Anko's father, but I was correct about Anko being the detective. That checks out. Like, there's no denying it at this point. They flat out said the thing, okay? So I was a little bit off in my, remarks, but the overall spirit of it was right on the money. But this whole basically her father getting turned into a vampire and then killing her mother, and God, that is rough. But I can understand her hate, but now she's basically at it, just consumed by her hatred of vampires. Like this whole part of the series surrounding Meijiro, I believe her actual name was, has been so much better than what this first season was. But the first season was a really, really good setup to everything that happens here. But really, the more interesting part of this of these two episodes happens in the second week, this week, where we basically get Anko going out of her way to start riling up the vampires. Now, to what end she is doing this, I'm not really sure. She goes out of her way to shoot a couple of them, knowing that it won't do much to them. Which is weird. Is her whole plan to get them to chase her until, dawn comes or something? Or is she trying to lure them to a specific location? Who knows? Either way, several of them, including the blonde girl who attacked Nazuna, or who Nazuna attacked, the school teacher, and Akun, have all decided that they're going to go on the hunt for her. And now it's pretty clear that she doesn't directly have the means to deal with them in provoking this fight, because she didn't just take Akun out when she could have. But at the very end of this episode, we get a pretty thought she was planning to lure them into a trap. I'm pretty sure that was the plan. But right at the end of the episode here, Nazuna is, waiting for her when she goes to the school book club or whatever it was. Really spectacular couple of episodes. Genuinely spectacular couple of episodes. This whole there's a lot of conflict there. I don't know where this is going. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting ways this can go. Either way, all of it has been spectacular. I love everything that has been happening with this season 2. it has way outperformed my expectations, especially after season 1. Like, this is genuinely a good show. But that said, that clears everything that is in the must watch, and it has been an hour and 10 minutes just talking about the must watch category. So I'm hopefully going to speed along through not speed along, get through the next couple of these as well as I can. I don't think it needs to be said, but the must watch categories are all ones that I do really highly recommend people watch. But that brings us to Kaiju number 8, the first of the very good category that we'll be going over this week. So, what happens? Well, last week's episode was kind of just a meeting episode. It was pretty boring. We did get Ian Sinclair in the English dub of this, so I'm cool with that. But the biggest, most interesting thing that really happens in this is we are introduced to the idea of the number 10 suit and Vice Captain Hoshino or Hoshina. I forget which one it is. Either way, the Vice Captain is going to be the one wielding the number 10 suit. And that is the most interesting thing that happens in that episode. They do talk a little bit about like what they're planning to do, a little bit about the origin of the kaiju, but I don't really care personally about a lot of that stuff. It just didn't really interest me. So what it felt like to me was just like a lot of yap. I just want to see kaijus fight. Okay, that's why I watch this show. Week 2, we do get some Iharu and Reno stuff. The number 6 suit, a little bit of their personal struggles and everything, and watching them level up as well. Like Iharu gets his good moment where like he pushes past the brick wall that he's been facing. He gets through that block. Not to summon Biggles, but I'm 3 episodes behind on Rent a Kaiju and haven't felt motivated to catch up. Kaiju number 8 is one of those shows where like it's good entertainment. It is most certainly art as entertainment, not as human expression. There isn't really any like message to this. There isn't sort of anything that you can extrapolate out of this. It's just a show that is entertaining. And that's all it really needs to be. If you don't enjoy that, I respect it, because I generally don't enjoy those kinds of shows. This one, though, it's creative enough to keep me interested in it. And I kind of like the manga, so yeah. But this is really just one of those action series. But it's real lack of story or like major like like any like themes and characters or anything. It doesn't appeal to me. So I can genuinely understand not feeling the motivation to keep up with it. If ever there was like a popular anime that I think does get overblown just because it's a cool action series, it would be Kaiju number 8, because much like Solo Leveling, this one is pretty hollow once you start looking at the story of it. Next on the list, though, would be To Be Hero X. I'm kind of, I don't know, this is another one where, like, the hype behind this just has been letting me down. Like, I had a couple of really, really good episodes there, and now it's starting to sort of wind down. We're back to talking about the original Nice and everything that he's been up to and how he is, kind of scum. But heck, basically the whole alien spaceship incident ends as a cover-up. No one really dies or anything. A lot of people have their attention focused on it, so they can't really do anything. And we do learn kind of what the underlying issue of all of this is, in the fact that someone is trying to create a god out of fear, apparently. I don't know. that whole development has just kind of been like, oh, okay, this was, I don't know, not as spectacular as I had thought it would be. It's nice to see that Ghostblade has retired in all of this, and that like he's stepping away from it and like actually trying to take care of his daughter. I'm really hoping that like that's kind of a sad way to end that whole thing. Like that's just, God, I kind of feel bad for him, man. I mean, a lot of this is his own making, but like, bro screwed up. It also kind of leaves a lot on the table when it comes to like the whole issue with like Little Johnny and Ghostblade. Like none of that ever ends up getting resolved there. But now we're moving on into some other stuff here with the attempt to kill Smile. We also learn that apparently if you gain too much trust, you become like supremely powerful. So the commission exists to keep people from getting too powerful, apparently. But we did like the whole thing with like trying to kill Smile in the second episode. Like there's some messed up stuff going on there. Like what the heck is going on, man? Again, though, like I don't know how I feel about this story. I mean, the more I watch it, like I'm just like fluctuating between like, all right, here's a cool moment, and then the rest of it is like, okay, whatever. All right, here's a cool moment. All right, whatever. I'm back and forth on this the whole time. Like the story, the characters, I find myself struggling to really like truly be invested in said characters because a lot of them aren't around long enough for me to really like get into them. I mean, we'll just ignore Queen being ridiculously powerful. I don't know. This is another one where I feel like it doesn't quite live up to the hype it got, but it is not a bad show by any means. It has some interesting facets to it. I would have liked something different. All right. Next on the list, Ruri Rocks. Okay, so week one is obviously, the glass hunt. Shoko finally, joins the group, makes friends with a couple of people, finds, a mentor in Imari. That I like that. A lot of the stuff was like, it was an interesting change of pace from the normal geology stuff you would imagine. Goes on. And it talked a little bit about, like waste disposal and finding like old historical elements and stuff like that. And we get this nice friendship between Shoko and Ruri, where Shoko is the one who's kind of been repressing her interests because she feels like people won't understand her. Like her own parents don't understand what she's up to. Don't understand her interests and don't like truly support her. So it's nice to finally find someone, especially her age, who supports her interests. And in that regard, it's really similar to, My Dress Up Darling and all that. But it's a good episode as always, especially because we get that wholesome friendship element developing between the two girls and the student mentor thing going on between both sets, where you have Nagi and Ruri, and now you have Imari and Shoko. Week 2, though, it does bring us along to the water testing stuff, where we get Ruri and Shoko teaming up to do a school project together. And they, uncover a lot of interesting stuff. They discover, zincite in the water and all that, and they trace it back to an old facility that is leaking chemicals into the water supply. So, which is probably going to be good for their project, and since they're talking about water quality and everything. And they were able to find some interesting orange crystals out of it, or the orange zincite that they found built up inside the old tubes. So that was a cool part of it. And ultimately, Sato ends up actually, considering Ruri a friend, which she was unsure of at first, but in the end is just like, yeah, you know what? We're friends. All in all, I like the characters in this show. I think that them being a good cast is one of the things that helps carry this show. On top of, Nagi, but also like just the general information of it, the animation, the direct, like there's so much good about this show. And it is pretty niche, I will say that, but because of that, it's able to focus on that niche very well. I think it does a really good job. All right, I only got one episode of The Summer Hikaru Died. I couldn't find a second episode to check out. So, let's get into it. I really like when this show does like the supernatural stuff. I think it is much better when it does that. The big issue that has happened here is that we have now had we're now sort of seeing some of the curses happening, like things are starting to really like pop off in this town, like bad things. So we see this guy basically get possessed and then kill himself out front of a school while buck naked. It's kind of wild. And of course, there is the attack at the restaurant and all that. But because Hikaru decided to, break himself, he doesn't have the power to, fight some of these things anymore. That, though, was a pretty interesting way of doing things. Like, a lot of the horror elements in this were really, really good, this latest episode. But one thing that did like one major plot happening that came up in this one is the fact that the paranormal investigator runs into Yoshiki, and he immediately recognizes that Yoshiki has been in contact with the curse god, which we do find out what Hikaru is, like an old curse god that people fear and is basically the source of calamity for the town unless it is appeased. Again, this is one where like the horror elements are really good. I do like the supernatural creepiness to it, but it is one that can be a little bit hard to get through just because of, some of the BL elements that are pretty, heavy themes in all of this. All right. So this one had a good episode. I just wish it would focus a little bit more on like the mystery. I love what it's actually building so far. So I'm hoping that we get a little bit more of this because this show, just for the supernatural elements, has been pretty good. I could just do without the gay stuff, personally. All right, Betrothed to My Sister's Ex. Now, this is an interesting couple of episodes. Because we have some interesting things happen in this one. So basically, we have Mary overcoming her personal issues, like her inferiority complex and everything, and sort of being able to get away from the family and have a new perspective on herself. Basically, finding a better state of mind to live in. There is Kiros and Mary's date time and, going to the emerald store, going to the store and buying emeralds and all of that. And I thought that was cute. And of course, Mary admits that she, loves Kiros. So really good, wholesome episode in that one for the most part, until we are kind of reunited with the carriage driver and all that. Which is kind of a really dramatic way to end the episode on a cliffhanger. At this point, I am watching Hikaru at double speed. Interesting. There are very few anime that I will actually watch at double speed. This is not one of them. Hikaru is not one of them, I should say. Either way, moving on to week 2, though, this is kind of like the big episode for me. We learn a little bit about what actually happened to Anastasia. There's been a lot more to the plot a lot more plot to this one than it seemed like there would be. Another nice surprise for the season. Yes, I do agree. I thought this one has a much better story, and it has good animation. Like, it was better on a lot of fronts than I had expected it to be. I thought this was just going to be a throwaway anime, but no, this one has actually been pretty good. Either way, so we get like Mary's family lore and everything, like who her grandmother was. We also get to see what supposedly became of Anastasia and everything, and how this creepy carriage driver basically tried to unconsensually sex her. Like, some wild stuff. But I mean, the biggest part of this that really comes at like the end of it is Mary realizing that Anastasia may still be alive. And I think we've gone over this. The fact that, like, I think it was a pretty like, we all in our heads sort of like believed that Anastasia was still alive. Like, there shouldn't really be any question as to whether she is alive or not. But it's nice to see that she's actually being able to, go out and pursue the life that she actually wanted all along. Being able to make clothes and everything, and that she is taking up a position as like an apprentice to a master jeweler, a master craftsman. And while that does seem like a dramatic thing to happen there, I kind of like that development, because at least, it gives the sisters a chance to sort of reunite and reconcile on a lot of the things. I think my windows are still open, but who the fuck cares, It's a lot of people walking around at night. Okay, next would be cultural exchange with a game center girl. I should wrap this up, but yeah, basically this is one that has been much better than I had thought. Like, there are a lot of ones that came out this season that have ended up being much better anime than I figured they actually would be. I kind of chalked a lot of them up to being throwaways, just ones that I would like watch just because they're mildly entertaining, but no, a lot of them turned out to be pretty freaking good. Title for the next episode was discouraging, though. I didn't look at the title for the next episode. I guess I missed that. Either way, we'll deal with that when that one comes out next week. Cultural exchange with a Game Central girl, though, is the next one on the list. So we do have, the student council president showing up for some of the game stuff. She joins the crew and everything, but she's really, really committed to like the educational game stuff. So the whole group, to get her off their case, is all just like, making up reasons for it to be like educational and all that. Like, this one teaches this one teaches this, all that. But really, it's just nice to see her join the group and being able to make friends with everyone. Nice little wholesome element to throw in there, Still no kendo chick, so kind of disappointed that she hasn't been around for a while, but I figured this might be the case. And of course, we do have the whole group photo thing. I couldn't find another episode of this. Like, there was only one episode for whatever reason. So it is what it is. That's all I have to cover. Now, this is, again, one, it's nice to just, see the whole friendship thing. Just wholesome, relaxing anime after, watching a bunch of people like do some crazy dark shit in other shows. Because there is some fuckery that goes on with some of these shows, and they're just messed up sometimes. So it's a nice, like, unwinding, like a little, like, decent little show. But this is one where I think I do want to move this one down to the interesting category and keep it here. Because while I do enjoy it, I don't think it is a very good kind of show. There are a lot of things that are good about it. It's just as time has gone on, I feel like the shine is sort of worn off on that one for me. Yaiba is another one that I couldn't find another episode 2 for, but we did get an interesting episode with the whole, monkey poet. The guy who could turn people into stone. So that was a very interesting fight and all of that. And we see, Yaiba do his whole thing. The sucking the guy into the Twilight Orb and all that. That was a pretty great way to resolve that whole thing. Of course, I mean, we do get to the very predictable plot point that, all of the orbs would have to be discovered in order to, merge them together to make the key or to make the dragon orb. I thought it was going to be like they would directly merge into the dragon orb, but no, apparently they're just the key for the dragon god orb. But the big roadblock to that is the fact that Onimaru has now parked his flying castle on top of Mount Fuji, which is right where the crew needs to go in order to, get the power that they need to defeat Onimaru. Again, nothing new that I could say about this one that I haven't already said before. The animation is cool. I think it's a really nice, old school kind of shonen anime. But I feel like and it's pretty whimsical in the way it goes about doing things, combining historical figures like real people with animals to make some weird hybrid of these historical figures. That part is interesting. It's just these sorts of shonens aren't particularly they aren't right up my alley. They're good. I enjoy them, but they're not right up my alley. So this one is kind of there. It's a very good show in and of itself. The animation, the fights, all that. The storytelling is solid. It's just, I don't know, a little bit outside of my strike zone, I guess. Okay. Let's talk Onmyo Kaiten. And I'm going to kind of talk about everything that has happened in these two episodes together, because there is some crazy, crazy stuff that happens in this one. These past couple of episodes, there's some weird stuff going on with this one. Okay, so we did kind of learn why Tsukimiya was just completely chill with Takeru in each and every one of these instances. The bro had no problem or anything with anything that or she had no problem with anything that was going on. We learned why. So we get her backstory and how she came from a tragic era where everyone was dying out and humanity had been basically wiped out and forced to relocate to the moon and everything. The moon colonies were slowly deteriorating, resources were becoming scarce. And then, of course, someone decides to purge the entire thing, and she is the only one who escapes. And of course, through all of this, Heian Kyo is able to, discover the truth of World Whittle and all that. And then a fight ensues with Senmei. So our boy goes and fights Senmei and everything, and they have this entire epic duel and everything. And the action for this show isn't particularly of note. And I mean, it was cool and everything. There are some wild twists to this show, but I don't think you get much more wild than the double twist that this whole show pulls off. To where you basically are convinced that someone is, the villain and everything, and you're shown everything to make you to convince you that they're the villain. And then you realize that someone else is actually the real villain, and that there is some crazy messed up stuff going on. Okay, like everything that happens, and to those of you who haven't watched it and may want to watch it, you might want to, not get yourself spoiled here. Because I'm going to talk a little bit more directly about this. So this whole time, this chick that this dude has been fighting for has been the villain. Like, she's been the one working against everyone, working with whatever this eldritch god that's protecting her is to destroy the world. And, I wouldn't be surprised if her whole story about, the moon base and everything was a little bit twisted. Like, she was the one who made up some of the stuff that, like, happened there. Like, she was the one who, killed everyone. And then ran and digitized herself. And came back in time. Given how things have played out, she's insane. She's lost it. So yeah, this one has gotten very, very interesting. I still think that some of its story is playing it fast and loose with some things. I still feel like it could tie things together better and maybe take a little bit more of its time. But the twists that it has done, it has a very, like, the writer has their head on their shoulders pretty well. And they're doing a very good job in how they are handling this story. Like, I don't think for a second think it's bad. I just feel like there are areas in which it can improve. The whole thing is just, yeah, that last episode was a wild thing to do. It's just like reverse psychology. Convince you that the guy fighting for the world is the bad guy because of the things he's doing, and that the heroine is, she's the heroine. Like, she's doing all this stuff because she's the good person. No, she's a freaking psycho. She's evil. And our main character is now in a difficult position. Yeah. All right. But that said, that wraps up the very good column. And we can move along to some of the other ones that we're going to talk about. Detectives these days are crazy. How did Nipple Tasting Man become a main character in all of this? Like, that is just one of the most ridiculous things. Like, this dude is just like straight up a proper recurring character who is a part of the main cast, and he's just like sort of like, one of their like backup goons that they have whenever they need his help. Oh, like this show is awesomely ridiculous. Of course, the whole hypnotized Mashiro thing was really great. Like, it only works on incredibly dumb people. And Maki's day off and all that. Like, a lot of this stuff, I apologize. I really love the gags in this one. This one has just been really, really good. Of course, week 2, we do get some interesting stuff, particularly the phone theft thing. I thought it was great. Like, they're doing all these ridiculous challenges to get Mashiro's phone back and everything. And of course, Nipple Tasting Man returns with the police commissioner's daughter as, his backup. And they steal her phone back and everything. And of course, we do get a little bit of like, how did he get the afro and everything? And we just see like the scientist chick just blows her phone up on him. And of course, there is, the backstory on Maki and, the detective and everything and how they met and all that stuff. But that was a little bit less interesting. I'm usually more so interested in all of the gags and like the silly stuff that this one's doing. I think this is a really good comedy anime. I'm very happy with that one. But again, how like I put out a tweet on this. Like at some point, nipple tasting man became a proper like part of the cast. It's just it is something else. If we're talking pure like comedy anime, yes, I do think that this is one of the best pure. This is the best pure comedy anime out here. But if we're talking about like shows that are like comedic but with other elements in them, it's not the best. Like if we're talking about comedy directly, it is better than Witch Watch as a comedy. But I also like some of the other storytelling elements in Witch Watch more than I do in Detectives These Days Are Crazy. There's not really much to dissect with this one because, I mean, it's kind of hard, but a lot of the gags for this one are just great. And you really need to watch them yourself if you want to understand what's going on. Oh. All right, let's talk about Lord of the Mid. Did you ever give Grand Blue a shot? I started when I saw season 2 was airing, and I have binged all of it. I can't wait until the next episode every week. That's one that I probably should just like catch up on. To be entirely honest, I should just binge Grand Blue and catch up on it. Same with Bunny Girl Senpai. I need to get caught up on that as well. But I don't know. Chaos has ensued. Unfortunately, though, I have a 3-day weekend, so that's cool. Labor Day, yay! Here we go now. But no, I have not watched Grand Blue. I kind of wanted to, I just never got around to it. So, Lord of Mysteries. So we have our trans assassin back in this one, and they're, manipulating a bunch of stuff in the background. That's kind of like that'll be relevant later. But really the big things that happen in this one is we have Klein invading a man's mind to see what Lavanos, I forget what the guy's name is. Mr. L is plotting in the background, and they learn about a couple of organizations that are working their way into Tingen. And I mean, there's some pretty cool stuff that happens in here. We see a little bit more of Klein's powers and everything. Are we talking about Grand Blue? Because if that's the case, then I probably do need to go check out Grand Blue. Either way, the end of the first episode of this, Klein gets a new entry into the Tarot Club. Mr. Sun is now a part of his, inner court and all that. But episode 2 that we'll be talking about had some really interesting stuff, like Klein praying to and summoning himself in order to, infiltrate the manor. Of course, we do have the whole thing with our gender swap witch assassin person going out and doing everything they can to try and get into politics and everything and, manipulate the entire state in order for their sect to come in. And the whole team goes and confronts her, and it turns into this big, long battle where it takes a lot of people to, bring her down and everything. And Klein pulls some cool moves and actually gets the better of her. Oh, Lord of Mysteries. Yeah. I feel like it easily could have been better. It's an interesting show, but I feel like a lot of it is just terribly botched, to be entirely honest. 9 out of 10 feels way too generous, if you ask me. The latter half has been significantly better. Like much more interesting. It definitely improves as it goes along, but its first part kind of rough. Okay. Lord of Mysteries. 9. So 10 is out. 11 is out. Is Lord of Mysteries already over? Was that the last episode today? Hold on a second. I will have to look up some of the other episodes because it says 13 episodes, but there's only 11 on the sites that I've used. Yeah, I mean, I would assume you would find them on the internet. All right. Either way, I feel like calling this first season of Lord of the Mysteries a 9 out of 10 is way overshot. All right, see you later, questioners. Have a good one. I would give it a 7 personally. Either way, the latter part of the second episode was really, really good. I did enjoy that. I got to see there was a lot of cool stuff that they did that I actually had my interest in. And then, of course, the final scene in this episode was just kind of like okay, what the fuck is going on here now? Like, there's some wild ass shit there. Either way, it's just sort of it's an interesting series, but I don't know. I'll see when the other 2 episodes come out, I guess. I'm not really like super interested in going to find them right now. All right. That said, though, that does bring us to one that I think was actually really good. One that is yet again way better than anything I thought it was going to be. Ugly Mug Epic Fighter is much more put together than I thought this was going to be. Yet again, another anime I thought was going to be a throwaway, but turned out to be not so. So, what do we got in these episodes? So, I mean, episode 1, we get all 3 of our main characters transforming and, going into battle. And of course, Shigeru becomes a bat to go and fight Kaji. So that whole episode was interesting. I thought it was it was a good setup. We get like a lot of the things that are like winding up into this big confrontation here. But really, episode 2 that we're going to be talking about here is the more important one, the one that is sort of like the big payoff. So, I mean, White Fox does a really good job animating this episode. The fights look good. A lot of it is like far better than I expected for a throwaway anime. And the story for this has been way better written than I think it ever really deserved. Like, we get another almighty god showing up in this, which actually presents, a whole thing for Shigeru. There's some more like really like interesting world development that happens in this. Again, like I liked a lot of the developments that have happened in these past couple of episodes, in these last few episodes, and everything. Like every time I think, like, all right, this one can't really like go any further with it, it decides to go and do something even better. Like the characters have been well done. The story can be a little helter skelter, but it actually does present a good narrative. And like I said, the animation for this one was far better than this show deserved. So I don't know what more there is to ask for. This is just one that I have been very, very impressed with. This stupid little gag series that I thought was, just going to be a throwaway entry for the season turned out to be much better than I thought it would be. All right, let's keep moving. Get through the rest of these. Shy Hero and Assassin Princess. So episode 1 that I missed last week because I wasn't streaming entails Ciel getting captured too when she goes to fight, Anemone, because that's a thing. Ends up, falling under hypnosis, and Toto goes to, fight the big bad and ends up getting paralyzed, only for Goa to, prove that her hypnosis is actually much more powerful and save the day for everyone. And of course, in all of this, Toto nukes a monster. They all get recognized as a hero. But really the more like notable thing from that episode was the fact that Goa just used her powers to make this chick kill herself. Like this was definitely like a pro Goa episode. Like it gave her all of the good moments and everything in that. But really the second episode is the one that's most prevalent in my mind still, but like I think the funniest part of this for me, the second episode, so we get a beach episode and some, swimsuit wrestling stuff going on. Anemone decides to kiss Toto because, that's how you get him to drop the fucking watermelon so that he loses and all that. Because they want to kick Goa out of the party. The funniest part about this one, though, I mean, aside from Toto nuking a monster again, was I was watching this while I was, just catching up for the day. And my brother walks in on me in the middle of one of the like fights where they're like holding the watermelon, like trying to push each other off the ramp and everything. And I'm just like, yeah, this is one of those moments where like anime just presents something that you can't explain the context of. And he's like, yeah. So he sticks around to see what's going on here, and then it cuts to a shot of Goa's tits, and like immediately he is just like, Jesus. With the fucking cleavage sticking out of her bikini top. Yeah, it was. It was fun, especially watching Anemone like absolutely task failed successfully win the match. I enjoyed that one. I thought it was a good presentation. All right. Sakamoto days. We're getting down there. We are getting down there. There's only a couple left. Whew. Okay. Some of them are going to be really, really easy. Sakamoto days. So, I really don't like the gags that this one uses for its characters. Like the whole director gag thing in this one that caused all of like the chaos. I thought that sucked. I did not like anything that was going on there. The parachute stuff was okay. The blue hair girl, all right, cool. Still not a huge fan of this latest episode, particularly because the whole assassin movie director thing was just stupid. I hated that. We do learn that the blue hair girl though in the second episode is related to one of Sakamoto's old co-workers or one of his old classmates. Collector girl with the shotgun axe. You know what? I approve of that. Like, an axe blade on the end of a shotgun. Hell yeah. Cool weapon. Okay, cool. Whatever. Still don't really care about the characters or the storytelling of this one. It's just kind of like a decent action show that I watch because, it's there. And of course, we do have the whole like friendship and love stuff going on with Akao. And like how she, goes full kill mode and everything, like turns into a badass, and Sakamoto is like, no, don't do that. You shouldn't, go killing people. Bruh, you're an assassin. Like, I get your family rules and all, but like, it's not meshing well. Sakamoto Days, though, is one that is just like, it's not in my wheelhouse. I don't get why people really, really like this show or like this manga. Like, the storytelling of it, the way it tries to meld some of its absurdities into a serious story, it hopefully I've got to be able to do something about this because this is some BS. I am getting sick of this, and I am going to look into why this is the way it is, and hopefully come up with a solution here soon because I can't keep going on like this. Come on. Anyway, hopefully I wasn't buffering for too long. Where if someone could let me know where we were at before it completely cut me out, that would be appreciated. Here we are loading back into this thing because apparently here we are loading back into this thing because there we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. So where were we when I cut out for you guys? All right, we were on Sakamoto Days and mixing messages. All right, cool. Goa's tits. Hmm. Well, I'll just quickly wrap up the Sakamoto Days thing. It's not really in my wheelhouse because it does a terrible job of mixing its absurdities, its message, and its serious storytelling and its setting. All of those things I feel like are terribly contradictory and they don't lead to a good story experience. That's just my personal opinion of the whole thing. Anyway, so like I was saying, I haven't watched New Saga, but I am dropping Wataru Kun's Garden. I don't want to sit here and watch another love triangle series. I don't care. We know where this is going. We know how this ends. Fuck it. Private Tutor to the Duke's Daughter. Boring. Don't really want to watch it. I'm done. I don't care. Red-haired girl is not enough for me to really want to check this series out. The Water Magician. This one I am going to keep watching because I do enjoy The Water Magician a little bit. Some of the parts of it are interesting, particularly around like the demons and all that. So we get like the demons in the dungeon thing. So the party, the Crimson Sword, gets like teleported way deep into the dungeon, and Ryo comes running in and decides to charge right to the bottom of it and go fight a bunch of dudes to save his friend. So that was nice. We do get a little bit of information on Leonora, the character who went and fought Ryo during the eclipse. Cool. That was an interesting point. And in all of this, we do have Ryo finding a swordsmanship instructor, which is going to help him level up in the future. Good on him. Interesting developments. It's still just an okay show. There are a lot of things that could be done better, but it's not the worst thing out there. And that brings us specifically to it's all right. It has some interesting things. I wouldn't say it's really good. I think it has some interesting parts to it. It's enjoyable. It at least, has some like good lore parts to it. But there are a lot of things that I do feel like are lacking, particularly the guild stuff. I feel like the guild stuff feels very generic, dungeons, all that kind of stuff. You could easily have done a lot of that stuff better. But I was really intrigued by Leonora as a character and her as, an enemy for Ryo. So I'm watching specifically for that. And then we get to Night of the Living Cat. Oh, this is one I have no intention of ever going back to. And I said this in my review of this show. Night of the Living Cat is one that survives specifically on its absurdity. So if you vibe with that and you really just want to watch people do stupid shit with cute cats for an entire anime season, this will be great for you. But I don't. And I don't think that this one deserves to be on my list anymore. I've had enough of it, so it is going bye-bye. Night of the Living Cat is done. Well, I'm done with it. And that right there is 3 anime that I can carve off of this whole thing. As much as I did enjoy Night of the Living Cat in the beginning, Ivan Ortega over at Weebs and Waifus did kind of have the same opinion as me. At first, you're like, oh, wow, what the fuck is this? And you're just laughing watching it. And then you get deeper into it, and it literally does nothing to try and innovate what it is doing. It doesn't do anything to try and actually, spice the show up outside of just more absurdity. And it's not even like a good comedy. So, yeah. I didn't even watch these last 2 episodes that came out over the time period I wasn't streaming. I literally just decided, yeah, I don't want to watch it anymore. So I was just done. I have plenty of other good options for this season. I'm done with it. And that, of course, brings us to the last thing of the night. Reborn is the vending machine. Because as I said at the beginning of the stream, I did not watch New Kitashi this week. Or last week. So I have nothing to say about what's going on with that show. But we basically, in these 2 episodes, I'll sum them up together because my notes kind of bleed together on this one. We get the whole Dark Forest Stratum arc, and we learn that the reason the teleporters were malfunctioning was because someone had placed a spell on Boxo, and every time he would go in, it would cause problems. So they basically... Yes. Its whole sense of comedy is just, oh no, cute cat. It doesn't work. Anyway, they have like a big boss battle and everything in this one. A hot springs thing. A lot of people like teaming up to, take down some of the, the Netherlord's generals and everything. We have the screaming ghost lady who gets her ass beat real fucking easy. This is another one where I'm just like, this would technically be an okay anime if you ask me, but like, it's entertaining just for how ridiculous it is. But at the very least, it has a decently written story. It doesn't focus on one gimmick the whole fucking time. It actually focuses its resources on attempting to tell a story that is interesting to people with characters that you can actually care about. So in that sense, it is a better absurd series than Night of the Living Cat. And with that said, we are going to wrap it on. So again, sorry about poor performance here on YouTube on my part, whether that be from Fictionology not being as good as I should have made it, or just not putting out as many videos as I should have, or being behind schedule on things. There's a combination of issues. My own procrastination on some of them doesn't help. But the fact of the matter is that I'm trying to get back on that grind and get some of this stuff, knocked out, because I do want to make a bunch more videos before the end of the season and work on a couple of the essays that I want to do. So longer format videos. This is where we're going to leave off for this week with all of the seasonal anime. So we will screenshot that and we will be right back at it next week. That said, thank you everyone for, showing up. Marcel, Jeremy Turner, the questioners, RG Energy was here at one point, JM, the Elite Fan, and anyone else who may need to be mentioned at some point here or there. And right at the end here, Jeremy Turner sends in a $3. Giving us the rock on, I appreciate it. Well, we'll probably catch a lot of you over on the Biggles Breakdown on Monday. So I will see you then. Hopefully put out a couple more, short videos talking about some anime and stuff that I'm going over this week. I'm working on Ugly Mug Epic Fighter next, so you keep that in mind. Have yourselves a great Labor Day weekend. I don't know how many of y'all are in the United States or who celebrate that kind of stuff, but that's what we're doing here. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your weekend either way. Thank you for spending your Saturday night with me. I appreciate it. And you know what? Let's change up the outro And let's go with something a little bit different. Where, you know what? Let's go with Mau Mau. Let's end with a little bit of a throwback with Mau Mau. Good night, everyone. Stay safe, stay hydrated, sleep well. See you later.
Pick, pick.